Up front next, breaking news. President Trump says James Comey is lying, and the president says he's willing to testify under oath. Plus, are there tapes of conversations between Trump and Comey? The president promising an answer soon, bringing it up multiple times today, and a Republican calling out Paul Ryan tonight. He says if Trump were a Democrat, there'd be talk of impeachment. That Republican is my guest. Let's go out front. Good evening, I'm Erin Burnett. Out front tonight, the breaking news, Trump versus Comey. One of them is lying. The President of the United States upping the ante against fired FBI Director Jim Comey, saying he would, quote, 100% testify under oath about his conversations with Comey, including the charges that he urged Comey to drop the investigation into General Michael Flynn.
He did say under oath that you told him to let the Flynn, you said you hoped the Flynn investigation you could let.
I didn't say that.
So he lied about that.
Well, I didn't say that. I mean, I will tell you, I didn't say that.
Trump then denied ever asking Comey to pledge loyalty to him.
Did he ask for a pledge of loyalty from you? That's another thing he said.
No, he did not.
So he said those things under oath. Would you be willing to speak under oath to give your version of those events?
100%.
100%. Trump agreeing to be deposed by special counsel Robert Mueller in the Russia investigation. It's an incredible development, and it comes as tonight House investigators have now sent letters both to Comey and the White House. They want the memos, and they want the White House tapes, if those tapes exist. Sarah Murray is out front tonight at the White House, and Sarah, it is pretty stunning here. You now are going to have, you have one person who said it under oath, the other one who has made it clear that he will say it under oath and has already come out with his point of view. This is one man's word versus another.
That's right. It's a he said situation. Both guys say the other one is lying, but the difference, of course, is James Comey delivered his testimony under oath already, knowing what the penalty would be if he lied. Now President Trump says he's willing to do the same.
No collusion, no obstruction. He's a leaker.
A defiant President Trump says he's willing to testify under oath about his conversations with James Comey.
So he said those things under oath. Would you be willing to speak under oath to give your version of those events?
100%.
After restraining himself during Comey's testimony on Thursday, today Trump is going on offense.
Frankly, James Comey confirmed a lot of what I said, and some of the things that he said just weren't true.
One day after Comey made clear he thought President Trump lied, Trump accused the former FBI director of lying under oath. But he refused to say whether he has tapes of his conversations with Comey.
I'll tell you about that maybe sometime in the very near future. Oh, you're going to be very disappointed when you hear the answer.
This as Trump and his allies adopt a questionable defense strategy, insisting the president is in the clear because Comey testified that Trump was not under investigation when Comey still led the FBI, but arguing other parts of Comey's testimony are a fraud. Trump insisted he never asked Comey to back off the investigation into former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn.
I didn't say that.
So he lied about that.
Well, I didn't say that. I mean, I will tell you, I didn't say that.
And Trump also said he never asked Comey for loyalty.
And did he ask for a pledge of loyalty from you? That's another thing he said.
No, he did not. I hardly know the man. I'm not going to say, I want you to pledge allegiance. Who would do that?
Both statements that directly contradict Comey's testimony. And while the president may feel exonerated, members of his own party are still airing their concerns and saying the president crossed a line.
The president asked Mr. Comey to do an inappropriate action, and that was to drop the investigation of General Michael Flynn. That was clearly inappropriate. It crossed a boundary that the president should not have crossed.
Now remember, President Trump is the one who initially raised this idea that he could have tapes of those conversations with James Comey, and they've basically been playing coy about it at the White House ever since. Well, it seems like that game is going to be coming to an end as House and Senate investigators say they want to see those tapes.
I'm sure they do, and we will find out if they do exist. Also tonight, House and Senate investigators are now calling on the White House to turn over any private recordings of the president and the FBI director. Ryan Nobles is out front on Capitol Hill tonight. And Ryan, you know, the president is not even saying if those recordings exist, although he continually brings it up, continually encourages questions about them. What are you learning about the requests to obtain them?
Yeah, that's right, Aaron. I mean, that speculation has just been swirling around Washington since the president sent out that tweet on May 12th. And now House intelligence leaders would like to put that speculation to an end, firing off a letter today to White House counsel Don McGahn, demanding to know whether or not these tapes exist, and if they do exist, to hand them over to the committee. And they've set a deadline. That deadline is June 23rd. That would be 2 weeks from today. And they're also looking for those memos that James Comey wrote after those interactions with President Trump. They've sent a letter to Comey specifically asking for him to hand those over. And, you know, just like the tapes, the memos are something that many here in Washington have been asking for some time. In fact, the Senate Intelligence Committee has demanded those memos for quite a while. They talked about it often during that hearing where James Comey detailed what he wrote in those memos. They've now sent a letter to Daniel Richman. He is the Columbia law professor who Comey talked about, who he gave those memos to, and then Richman eventually handed them over and talked to reporters about them. Everyone wants to know what happened in these conversations between Donald Trump and James Comey, and it seems as though leaders here on Capitol Hill are getting a little bit closer to getting some more insight into that. Aaron?
All right. Thank you very much, Ryan. And out front now, James Gagliano, former FBI agent, Paul Callan, our legal analyst, John Dean, former Nixon White House counsel, April Ryan, White House correspondent for American Urban Radio Networks, Mike Rubino, former senior advisor to the Trump campaign, and Dan Pfeiffer, former senior advisor to President Obama. John Dean, let me start with you. President Trump says 100%, he is 100% willing to speak under oath. How significant is that?
Well, if it becomes one-on-one, it really is going to weigh in favor of Comey for this reason. He made contemporaneous notes of his conversation. Those actually have evidentiary value. A good prosecutor or a good a lawyer, just depending on the circumstances, can bring that into evidence, and that will tilt most juries, if not the American public, in their opinion, unless they're just looking at it without any, just coldly, without any partisan viewship of it. It favors Comey, clearly, I mean, overwhelmingly.
So Paul, Comey says Trump is lying under oath, okay? And Trump is willing to say Comey's lying under oath. So who is lying?
This case goes no place on that evidence because you have one person's word against another person's word.
But you have the memos, as John points out.
As John Dean points out, that is some evidence that Comey's testimony may be getting more credit. But very few sets of jurors will convict on the word of one person against another. Usually you need, and the corroboration here is just a memo written by one of the witnesses. You usually like to see other corroborating evidence, and I'm not seeing it so far.
Well, of course, there could have been people in the room. Right, the Navy stewards who allegedly were serving them, they, I'm sure, will be brought to testify or in front of the special prosecutor.
Well, and other evidence might be the president's history of demanding loyalty oaths from his aides and employees. Yeah. That's going to come out in evidence as well.
Which is something, James, we have heard a lot about this president. Loyalty, it is important. It is the most important thing. I have known him for a dozen years. I know this, as does anybody who has interacted with him. Comey says the president requested a pledge of loyalty. The president today didn't leave any gray area. He just said, it's not true. Here he is.
There'd be nothing wrong if I did say it, according to everybody that I've read today, but I did not say that.
So he said those things under oath. Would you be willing to speak under oath to give your version of
100%. I didn't say under oath. I hardly know the man. I'm not going to say, I want you to pledge allegiance. Who would do that? Who would ask a man to pledge allegiance under oath? I mean, think of it. I hardly know the man. It doesn't make sense. No, I didn't say that, and I didn't say the other.
Aaron, careful, Mr. President. This is reminiscent of Kenneth Starr compelling William Clinton to testify and give a deposition in the Monica Lewinsky ordeal. I have been on CNN. I've been full-throated, robust, unwavering in my support for this director. I believe of the 7 that we've had, I served under 4. He is a man of impeccable credentials, honorable and decent. I think he ceded the moral high ground. I do. Yesterday, when he began his testimony...
When he admitted the leak.
When he admitted the leak, I was disappointed and disheartened because he ceded the moral high ground. The president now controls the narrative. The president now can go, you're taking the word of a leaker. Now, a leak is an unauthorized disclosure of unclassified information. Anything within the 4 corners of a document that you draft as an FBI agent or FBI director belongs to the government. And for Director Comey to give that to a surrogate to leak to the New York Times, he's given the narrative back to the White House.
So, April, you now have been to countless press conferences with this president and other presidents. You hear James saying that he got the moral high ground because Comey admitted to leaking. Was the president taking a stand today when he said 100% and it's just all untrue? Was it convincing?
He took a stand, but what would be convincing more so is once he actually does do what he said he would do, under oath, have a deposition. I was there when Ken Starr deposed William Jefferson Clinton. That was a chilling day in the map room of the White House. Now the question is, years later, will this happen? People want to hear the truth. Yes, right now it's he said, but right now, even with what's happening, James Comey has credibility according to the American public. This president has thrown this issue in the atmosphere by tweeting it. And now we have to find out really what's going on. So it's left up to the president to stand by what he says. And the question is, will he tell the truth?
And Mike, here's the thing. The president wants to have it both ways. Because today he said, listen, Jim Comey tells the truth, so much so that he vindicated me. And then in the next breath he said Comey's a liar. Here he is.
We were very, very happy. And frankly, James Comey confirmed a lot of what I said. And some of the things that he said just weren't true.
So the president says Comey vindicated him because he told the truth, and then he said Comey's a liar. So, Mike, how can both be true?
James Comey committed sins of omission and sins of commission. He publicly corrupted all of his trust, and the reason he did that is because he has a Messiah complex. So what we've seen is this is a gentleman who wants to do both partisan and political things from a nonpartisan and non-political organization. He has no credibility left. Donald Trump is 100% vindicated, and there's really nothing left here but political theater.
So you think he just made it up? So this meeting happened, and he decided to make something up and write it down, and then not say anything about it, and wait, and then one day he's going to come and share this made-up story?
James Comey has obviously been never Trump from the very beginning. He has done things to constantly undermine the president and his agenda. He has 3 opportunities to do something for the president, and it was very simple. All he had to do was remove the cloud from the president, and that cloud was, sir, you are innocent, and he is innocent.
Okay. And I will just say, I want to bring Dan in here, but he did do something in late October, which was obviously very positive for this president. Whether that was his intent or not, I don't think anyone can deny that. Dan?
Right. Well, look, I think, Aaron, you hit on it. The Trump explanation here is absurd. It can't be that James Comey tells the truth only when it helps Donald Trump, and when it doesn't, he's obviously lying. And to your point, look, we don't know what was said in that room, but we can use our common sense. Comey wrote these things down in real time, talked to people in real time about them. Prosecutors will go back and be able to talk to those witnesses. Comey has a decades-long bipartisan reputation for integrity and rectitude. And we know for a fact that Donald Trump lies all the time. We know he's lying about these tapes. And we will know that soon when the White House counsel has to tell the House Intelligence Committee that there are no tapes.
All right, we're going to hit pause because we're going to talk a lot more about these tapes. The president had something to say about it today that's very important. Republicans also coming to Trump's defense, saying he doesn't know any better, and that's why all of this happened. Is that a defense? Plus another blockbuster congressional hearing. Jeff Sessions about to be grilled over his interactions with the Russians, and more developing on that. How much trouble could he be in? And the president's attorney celebrating, even handing out cigars to celebrate the president's vindication as he sees it. Breaking news, President Trump promising more information on tapes of his conversations with the fired FBI Director Jim Comey, and whether we will know if there are tapes. Here he is today.
I'll tell you about that maybe sometime in the very near future. I'm not hinting anything. I'll tell you about it over a very short period of time.
My panel is back with me. Mike, let me go straight to you on this. Why? Why I'll tell you about it in a very short period of time? This is not a nuanced area, right? There either are tapes or there are not tapes. Why is he not answering the question?
Aaron, I don't work for the White House. They have a phenomenal comm shop there, and the president does speak for himself. But here's what I will say. I hope that there are tapes because it will further vindicate the president. Yesterday's testimony by James Comey was just an egregious, outlandish set of statements from a guy who's obviously so hell-bent on bringing down this president that he has nothing else left to lose. So I hope that there are tapes, because this president will further vindicate himself, and he will then move on to his agenda of making America great again, which is what 63 million people voted for him to do.
Dan?
Well, let's not count the millions more who didn't vote for him to do it. But look, it is so obvious that Trump does not have tapes. He can barely organize his White House, so it's hard to imagine that in the early days he installed a secret White House taping operation, and he won't admit it because he's incapable of admitting he's wrong.
One of those spy pens that you can get at Hamburger Schlemmer or something?
I think it's far more likely that if he had a taping system, it was something like one of those small pens that you have in your pocket that he may be holding back. That's a possibility. And
like
how
Get
Mike
Smart.
can say the tapes will vindicate the president, I hope they're released. You've obviously never represented people in criminal cases, because let me tell you something, they surprise their lawyers all the time. And unless you were in that room, you have no idea whether the president is telling the truth or lying about that encounter.
I think that James Comey obviously has proven himself to be a liar time in and time out, and I think that the president obviously has proven himself to be speaking for the American people and to be a straight shooter.
Have you ever seen the tape on YouTube of lies President Trump has told during civil depositions? Have you ever seen that tape, Mike? It goes on for about 45 minutes of demonstrable lies told by the president under oath. Have you seen it?
And that's just classic liberal media spin.
No, I'm just curious. Have you seen the tape?
But you know, but the question is, you
I
guys
guess
are
we
talking
can't
about
answer that question. You can take the fifth if you like. I'm sorry.
You're talking about classic media spin. It is not media spin. This president talked about himself on Twitter, from his brain to his thumbs to the keyboard to Twitter, about he was hoping that there was a tape. And, you know, many people who I've talked to have said, you know, it's not beyond the realm of possibility because of what has happened with him in the past with business dealings. And you guys are talking about this phone pin or microphone pin or whatever it sounds like, Get Smart and the cone of silence and the shoe phone. But I mean, that's for a lot of people who, and that was way back. But anyway, but here's the issue. And going way back, if there is a tape, this is very Nixonian, and people are fearful of this because it does not look presidential. It seems sinister, and so, you know, as people are celebrating, you got to remember the base of this.
I have to tell you, I had a conversation with him about a year and a half ago, and in it we were talking about how there were a lot of Chinese companies in his building and whether he was wiretapped. And you know what he said? He said, I assume every conversation I have ever had is wiretapped because I'm in New York City real estate and people are out to get me. Okay, that was what the president, then candidate Trump, told me. But James, you know, you have Jim Comey saying, Lordy, I hope there's tapes. So again, whoever it is that's lying is doing so in the most brazen and egregious and frankly horrible way ever.
And let's stipulate to the fact that the political surrogates, if Jim Comey does something to attack Donald Trump, the Republicans are going to side with, or the Democrats are going to side there. If he goes the other way, the Republicans are going to side with that. I'm going to call balls and strikes here. There were two losers in his testimony yesterday. The first, and it's hard for me to say this, but I'm going to say this. The first was Jim Comey, because no one thought he could have been knocked off the high ground. And he was knocked off the moral high ground yesterday. Absolutely. The second, and with my apologies to Dan, the second was the Obama administration and the politicalization of the DOJ. Many of us in the FBI were upset by what came out yesterday. We knew this to be true, but to hear it stated by the director that then Attorney General Loretta Lynch said this is a matter and not an investigation, which was a Clinton campaign talking point.
All right, I want to get back to the issue of tapes, though. John, if there were tapes, wouldn't we already know about it, right? I mean, it's not possible that he could have it and be hiding it and it would just never show up, right? I mean, wouldn't we already know? I mean, this whole business he's saying of, I'll let you know very soon, very soon. We'd already know, wouldn't we?
The easy answer is go to the Secret Service. They sweep the White House often many times a day to make sure that there's no surreptitious taping going on. The other thing is the telephone that he has is the one that Obama had. That telephone actually has the capability of recording. All you have to do is hit a switch and the voicemail becomes a recording system. So some of his phone calls could just be a switch away from recording.
So,
Aaron,
yes, go ahead, April.
On the Secret Service issue, I did ask the Secret Service about taping for security or for any purposes, and some persons in the Secret Service said there is indeed nothing in there to tape that they use to tape. So they don't have any recording devices at all, visual or audio, for that matter.
All right. Well, yes. We'll go ahead quickly, Dan.
The fact of the matter is, go.
No, I was going to say, like, we'll find this out for sure. I'm confident there isn't one when the White House counsel has to tell the House Intel Committee that there is no tapes, and Trump will be proven a liar.
Well, Trump
or he'll release the tapes. One of the two.
All right. Thank you all. I appreciate it. And next, the Senate Judiciary asking Comey's friend to hand over any memos from the fired FBI director. The friend, of course, that he asked to leak them to the press. The deadline is tonight. Will they get them? Senate Judiciary Committee out front. Plus, a Republican comes out swinging against Paul Ryan, saying the speaker would be looking at impeachment right now if Trump were a Democrat. That Republican, a friend of Paul Ryan's, is out front tonight.